What's up everybody, this is TRDreads and here we do both dreadlocks and gaming along with some other stuff. Today we actually have a dreadlock video. I know it's been a while, but before we get into that, I'd really appreciate if you guys throw me a like and a subscribe so I can keep on making videos for you guys. You know, videos that are just okay. You know, because I'm recording with my phone and in my game room with minimal equipment, but let's just do it. So today's video is going to be me busting myths about dreadlocks. We got 10 of them here that I'm going to go through one by one. Not all of them are going to be completely busted. You know, some of these myths have some back-end truth to them, but it really varies from person to person. So without further ado, let's get into it. So dreadlocks smelling dirty, you can't wash them. So right off bat, I'm going to completely knock out the myth that you can't wash them. You can wash dreads just like normal hair, especially when they are matured. I could wash my hair 3, 4, 5 times a day if I wanted to. They're not going to come out. They're like rope. I feel like the myth that dreads are dirty or smell really comes from people who don't wash their hair already. If dreads are actually not washed properly, then they will smell because they can collect water on the tips, and that's why when you have dreads you really have to make sure to wring them out, get all the water out. And yes, you can wash dreadlocks. When you first start your dreadlocks, of course, you know, you're gonna want to give it a couple days to really let them lock up and set in, but not washing them will lead to greasy hair, which actually causes dreads to lock up slower. So if dreadlocks are maintained and cleaned and washed like they should be, they're not gonna smell and they're not gonna be dirty. So dreadlocks are not something that you can just get per se, with the only exception being synthetic dreadlocks or extensions. Natural dreadlocks have to be started, and there's a variety of methods. Even in my finally a new way to start dreadlocks video, there's twist and rip, there's backcomb, but basically you're taking hair and you are knotting it up and basically training it to lock into itself. So really dreads are a journey, a commitment. It takes time. It's not something that you just go out to the salon and get dreads. This is completely false. Dreadlocks are not braids. You can start dreadlocks with braids with certain hair types, but you can even look, there is no braid here. Braids are basically getting 3 strands of hair and braiding them together. Dreadlocks are not held together by that way. Rather, dreadlocks are knots that go from the root all the way to the tip of the dread. They aren't something that you can just unravel like braids. Once they are locked in and knotted up, it is extremely difficult to undo them, which we'll get into on another one. So for this one, I'm also gonna say completely busted. Any hair type can have dreadlocks. Certain hair types can start or hold dreadlocks better in the beginning. Straight hair, curly hair, thin hair, thick hair, textured hair, untextured hair. Anyone can have dreadlocks. It's more about the action of starting them, which will make you think that certain types can't have them. But at the end of the day, you can have dreads no matter what kind of hair you have. If you can grab your hair, put it on your palm, and rub your hands together and it knots up, then you can have dreads. Because what's going on there is you are creating knots in your hair. If you've ever went to brush your hair and you run into knots in your hair that are a pain to get out, then you can have dreads, because those knots are essentially dreadlocks. That's all dreadlocks are knots from scalp to tip. So I'd say this one is subjective, really depending on how you treat your dreads. Naturally, just having dreads will not thin your hair out. Most of the time, it's already something your body is doing, or genetics if your hair is thinning. The only time that dreads really will thin your hair out is if they're too heavy or if they're overly twisted, which some people you'll see will be twisting them and holding real tight twists with braids all the way back and keeping it in for a long amount of time. And naturally that's pulling on your hair follicles, which could cause breakage and complete hair loss out of the follicle. So really, if you take care of your dreads and don't over twist them, then you should be good there. This one is always one of my favorites. Again, dreads are something that really depend on how you take care of them. So someone's dreads being neat or not can't really be decided on their hair type or their race. It's really about the time and effort you put into them. Anyone can have nice looking dreads if they do the right amount of maintenance and really put the work and the love in to keep them looking good. So that's all I'll say about that one. So this one is probably an all-time favorite as well. Like, yeah, that's not true. I mean, if your dreadlocks are maintained and they're presentable and they look neat, you shouldn't have a problem, even if it's a job at a formal setting or, you know, they expect you to look fancy. You can always pull them back, keep them looking good, keep them looking clean and smooth, and, you know, you shouldn't have a problem. Especially like if you're working any type of manual labor like I do. I mean, I work in a metal shop as a machinist for my full-time job, and I don't think anyone's ever given me any type of grief about my dreads. So really just make sure they're looking good. Keep them tied back if you have to. Just don't bring too much like negative attention to yourself. As long as they're not looking crazy, sticking out everywhere and distracting anybody, you should be good. This one kind of goes with the last. It really depends on your environment and if your dreads are maintained or not. I mean, for the most part, nobody's gonna walk up to you and be like, oh, I don't like your hair, or your dreadlocks look bad and everything like that. I mean, if anything, most of the interaction I have when it comes to my dreads are positive. It'll be the same way for you too. You know, you don't gotta worry about that. We live in a time where individuality is very important, because at the end of the day, it's a hairstyle. I mean, it's not, you're not going around and offending people, you know, you're just being you and you're enjoying your hairstyle, and it shouldn't be anything other than that. You shouldn't get any grief for having dreadlocks. Say the only times that I've ever gotten anything that wasn't positive for dreads was from people who are just ignorant on the subject, or people who just haven't been informed about how dreadlocks are, people who probably still think that they're dirty or you don't wash your hair, and it's not true. And if you do get any type of harassment from people saying that, you know, you shouldn't have dreads because of your race or your background, really they're just being ignorant, and that's really all that is to it. Just look the other way, turn the other cheek. You're not out here to offend anyone just because of your hairstyle, and if somebody chooses to be offended by it, let them and keep on moving. See, this one kind of goes with the last one about harassment. So basically, it's not true. Just because you have a hairstyle that one culture might happen to also have doesn't mean you're appropriating anything. Anybody's hair can become dreadlocks. Anybody can get dreadlocks. People from as far back as time goes has had dreadlocks. Dreadlocks can happen naturally. As long as you're not trying to be something you're not with dreadlocks as the basis, you're fine. And if anybody ever tells you differently, then once again, they're just being ignorant, and they should really read up on what dreadlocks actually are and what they mean. At the end of the day, just remember, this is just a hairstyle. So finally, this one, I will completely bust this one as well. So if you don't want your dreadlocks anymore, you don't have to just take the scissors to them, cut them, and shave your head. Dreadlocks actually can be taken out even if they're fully matured. It's a pain. I'm not even gonna lie to you. It is, the longer you have dreads, the harder they are to brush out. But with the right amount of conditioner and the right amount of patience, you can get them out and still have hair left. I've seen people with even longer dreads than mine able to get them out with the right amount of time and effort. And if it's really something that you want to do, it's possible. You just have to take your time. And yes, you will lose a lot of hair and you'll lose some length and you'll break your hair a lot, but it is an option other than just having to shave your head, so you don't have to worry about that. So that was 10 myths busted about dreadlocks. Now, not all of them were completely busted. Some of them had answers that were really dependent on the situation, But there is a lot of false information out there about dreadlocks, so I just wanted to clarify a couple things that you might hear or face if you are either starting dreadlocks or considering getting them or have had them for a while. But I appreciate y'all for sticking around, watching the videos. I've been really loving the support, the likes, the comments, the views, all of that. That really keeps me wanting to do this and keeps me going. So I appreciate all of y'all. Again, a like and subscribe would go a huge way for me to keep on making good content for you guys. All of y'all be safe. Been TRDreads, Dreadlocks and Gaming, and I'm out.